Hello, and welcome to our program for today. Grace and peace be unto you from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Welcome to the last word today. I'm Dennis Coffin, and today, I want to continue where I left off yesterday by talking about the decline of the nation, talking about what's happening. I've been sort of highlighting some issues about spiritual war, talking about the coming decline, the coming degradation of our own nation, which is not a result of what we may see the political or the sociological climate, or even the economic climate of our society. It's just a natural progression in the decline of nations. We see great civilizations have come and grown, and they've passed from bondage to liberty and back to bondage again. So we're going to look at 10 stages over the next couple of days of nations and where they are in terms of how we conclude what's happening to our nation. I'm going to cover tomorrow night in a webinar that many of you probably seen information on for Thursday, March 16th, the next great awakening in this country. But I want to conclude today is why we need an awakening, why these things are illogically happening to our country, to our nation, as we look at the global scene of where Christianity is. I've been talking about some time this cultural influence. American culture is a paradox. It is both religious and secular at the same time. And apart from God's intervention, our nation will decline and eventually pass off the scene. Much of the Old Testament records this. And one of the greatest things that happen is the decline of the family. Nations may often fall from within, and this fall is usually due to the decline in the moral and spiritual values in the family. As family goes, so goes the nation. That's why I've been in this podcast dealing with faith, family, and finances. Nations most often fall from within. So this has been the main premise of thinkers from British historian J.D. Erdwin to Russian sociologists, got my tongue twisted, sociologists, Pirem Sakharin, who has studied civilizations that have collapsed. One of the things that's important when we look at this first stage of decline in civilizations, man ceased to learn or to lead their families in worship. So part of the reason that there's been a decline in nations is because there hasn't been family involved in worship. Spiritual and moral development become secondary. Their view of God becomes naturalistic. We've been talking about diverse worldviews, mathematical and mechanical. That's almost where we are. We're developing a nation of nuns and knowns that don't want any part to traditional Christianity, don't want the structure, the traditions that go on and the things that happen. So it leads us to stages within Christianity that we find ourselves ready to fall because of these stages that develop. In the first stage, we see that our spiritual and moral decay have gone down. In the second stage, we selfishly neglected care of our wives and children to pursue material wealth. There's that financial structure, political and military power, and cultural development. Does this sound familiar? Even in the church, material values begin to dominate thought, and we begin to exalt our own role as individuals. So we see that there's a shifting value from people to things, and those things become more important. Even obtaining things in life becomes more important than, of course, obtaining the development and the nourishment of each other. The third stage involved a change in man's sexual values. Men who are preoccupied with business or war even neglect their wives sexually or become involved with lower class women or with homosexuality. Ultimately, a double standard of morality develops so that there is a drop of line in terms of roles and development, and it becomes a case of I don't care, I don't need, I don't want. And so the values drop. Um, fourth stage, and this fourth stage affects women. And this month, we're celebrating the role of the women. The role of women at home and with children lose value and status. Women are neglected and their roles devalued. Soon they revolt and gain access to material wealth. This is what happened. And also freedom for sex outside marriage. Women begin to minimize having sexual relationships and conceiving children. I'm talking to women all the time that don't see the value of traditional marriage, don't see the value of changing their name, don't see the value of having any type of role. And I'm not saying they have to be subjective to a man. I think that this equality of sex is coming to the point where we're seeing the battle. This is all spiritual warfare. If the devil can keep us at odds with things, then we find ourselves not harmonious in our development of who and what we are, but seeing ourselves at odds and battling. So the battlegrounds are being set up as to who we are, what we're doing. So we come to the fifth stage. Husbands and wives compete against each other. If there's a devaluation of women and an overevaluation of who they are with themselves, then we have the fifth stage in which in the home, in the family, there's a battleground for identity and purpose. And so there's a less affection for our children, less love for each other, in which we've already talked from a scriptural standpoint when we talk about faith and we get that whole structure involved. That first of all, we love God with everything we have. And secondly, we love our neighbor as ourselves. Children are in a very dysfunctional stage right there. Many are feeling unwanted, absorbed, aborted, abandoned, molested, and undisciplined. No wonder we have the suicide rate is up for our children. The more undisciplined children become, the more social pressure there are to not have children. And so our society begins to come into a childless society because children decide that they don't see what they like because they've been abandoned, they've been aborted, they've been molested, and they've been undisciplined. They don't want to repeat the pattern. The sixth stage of decline of a nation, which is very important where we are now, is selfish individualism. It's carried over into our society, fragmented into smaller and smaller group loyalties, individualism. The nation is weakened by internal conflict in politics, in the home, in church, in all of our religious fervor. We see this conflict moving on and on, and we find ourselves in this warfare. And our worship is at the heart of it. And externally, what has happened is a rise in our global weather conditions that are reflecting what seems to be going on in our eschatology, end times. There's been crazy patterns going on in our weather condition, and we haven't even seen it as we're preparing for the end. I'll finish the other symptoms and the things that throws the family down tomorrow. I'm only highlighting these things on this show, but we'll get into the bottom line of this as we talk about the last word. Thank you.